What's up, guys, and welcome back to Bass Fishing Tips. And in today's video, we're going to continue our series on conquering the summer heat. We have entered into some of the hottest times of the year that we'll experience all throughout the nation. It doesn't matter if you're in New York or Texas, it is hot. Like my dad used to say, it is hotter than a four-pecker billy goat outside. I don't know how hot that actually is, but I do know that when he would say that, it was really hot outside. Like those kinds of days that you go outside and you work in the yard and that you're pretty sure by 10 a.m. you've sweated out a Meliella that you drank when you were 7. It's that kind of heat. And so in today's video, I want to talk about the top 5 baits that every bank angler needs in their arsenal to be able to go out and to conquer the summer heat. Now, these baits aren't just exclusive to bank anglers. This can work for boat anglers and kayak anglers as well, but this list is really kind of, catered to the bank angler because they're in a little bit of a unique situation. A lot of the times they're throwing out to deep water and dragging up shallow. A lot of the times they only have access to shallow water. A lot of the times they're fishing very pressured water that it may have already been hit by another bank angler or a boat angler or a kayak angler. And so I've really geared this list, both the size, the shapes, and the colors and the weights, to the bank angler this time of year to help them to go out and to catch some fish. And I've also got one rod, one reel, one line set up that'll help you to go out and to catch fish on all of these baits. So one rod, one reel to fish them all, and just simply keeping it simple. That's my motto for bass fishing. It's my motto for so many different things in life. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's what we're gonna be talking about in today's video. And so without any further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start with bait number 1, and that is a Wacky Rig stick bait. The Wacky Rig is, like I've said in the Wacky Rig video that I did, probably one of the most effective baits of all time. When you think about bass fishing and you think about all the billions of bass that have been caught all throughout history, since the invention of that little stick bait right there, this bait has probably accounted for so many of them. And like I said in my video about Wacky Rigs, which I'll link down below, link it in the description and the pinned comments so you guys can go check it out if you haven't. This is a bait that I can take with so much confidence anywhere in the nation. It doesn't matter if I'm going, south to Florida, like I was there last week, catching them on this thing, up north to Michigan and New York, caught them on this thing, back here home in Tennessee, catch them on this thing, or even took it all the way to Mexico and caught literally hundreds of bass on a Wacky Rig Stickworm. Now, my favorite color in the Wacky Rig Stickworm, and my favorite color that we're going to talk about a lot today, is just straight black. When you walk into the tackle store, there's an overwhelming amount of colors, shapes, sizes of all these different things. And you can look at one shape, a Wacky Rig included, and you can go as crazy as something like this. This is like a copper chartreuse. There's a copper on top, chartreuse on the bottom. There's green pumpkin, red flake. You can go pink, you can go white, you can go all of these different colors. But simply put, black is probably the most effective color ever made for bass fishing. And the reason for that is a bass operates very simply, meaning that it does see color and it can discern different colors, but anything that contrasts the environment around it is going to get bit because it can see it really well. And so when you're throwing a straight black, it creates a good hard silhouette, a good hard contrasting object in the water. It contrasts the bottom, it contrasts the water, it contrasts the skyline, everything that the bass is going to be looking at. That straight black is going to help to get their attention. And that is true whether you're in still water, pond water, moving water, you're in muddy water or clear water. Black is going to contrast all of those really well and going to get bit. And so with my stick baits and a lot of the plastics we're going to talk about today, just a straight black is going to be one of the best colors that you can throw. And so a black 5-inch stick style bait is number 1 on that list. Now, my favorite stick style bait, I've said this before and I'll continue to say this, Berkeley Maxent General. This is probably one of the most effective stick baits ever created because of that Maxent technology. Just the way that it's weighted, everything about it is, in my mind, a perfect stick bait. And you're talking about a guy who has thrown hundreds upon hundreds of stick baits. I've thrown every shape, size, color, brand that you can imagine, and I keep settling back on Old Faithful for me, which is the Berkeley Maxent General. And as you guys can see, we fished our way through this pack. We got one left in here to go catch a bass on, and so just a super duper effective bait. All right, so bait number 2 is actually going to be a hard bait, and that is going to be some sort of walking topwater bait. Now, when it comes to my walking topwater baits, especially as a bank angler, especially when we're dealing with pressured fish or fish that have seen, you know, hundreds of other lures, I want to downsize just a little bit. So this is the Berkeley Drift Walker. It's a downsized topwater walking bait. Even though you still got 3 hooks on here, it's got smaller hooks. It's a smaller overall diameter, just smaller size. It's got a much lighter rattle in it. It's like a little 1-knocker rattle in there. And just overall, it's going to be a more compact presentation. And I think, you know, like I said, when you're dealing with pressured fish, sometimes downsizing is one of the best things that you can do, because I've seen some of the biggest bass that I have personally caught and seen other people caught eat smaller baits. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, when they've seen so many other things, when something small, something vulnerable, something not so intrusive, not as loud, just not as much presence in the water comes by those fish, that they take that as an opportunity. Number one, as an opportunistic feeder, it's just an easy meal. You know, when you look at a lion, oftentimes the lion isn't going to attack the biggest, baddest buffalo in the herd. They're going to attack the little baby, because they know that that is a good meal. There's meat on that meal, but it's also really easy to kill. And I think bass, especially big bass, get the same way. You know, their brains get wired instinctually to kill the easy thing. And when you downsize stuff like your topwater, where you're already, you know, doing a really good job of mimicking an injured bait fish or some commotion on top of the water that may, you know, indicate injury of whatever they're trying to eat, and you go ahead and downsize that just a little bit, it can be a super effective bait to get really, really big bites. And so, you know, with my topwater, I keep it simple again, bone. You know, just a bone or a straight white. It's one of the best, most effective colors that I've ever thrown. And, you know, really, when you look at my topwater collection, I've got a bunch of different topwaters. And most of my walking baits are just straight bone or straight black. And, you know, I have found a ton of success, again, all across the country with those 2 colors. But if I only had to pick one when I walked into the tackle store or went to omnia.com, it's going to be something in that bone color. And I'll make sure to link what I'm talking about down below so that you guys can go check it out. You can go check out all the baits that I'm talking about. So if you do go to an online retailer and buy them, I'll make sure I have them linked, as well as a discount code that you guys can use. Or if you go into your tackle store, you guys can write these down and, you know, just copy and paste into your notes and go buy what you need to. But just a bone downsized walking topwater bait. So just awesome, awesome bait. Bait number 2 is going to, again, be one of the most effective baits ever created all time. And it's going to be another worm, but it's the way that we're actually going to be fishing this worm. And that's going to be a Texas rigged trick style worm. So this is just a standard trick worm. You know, you guys have seen this. This is probably the one worm that we all start off fishing with, just your straight tail, do nothing worm. It's such a simple profile. It's such a simple, you know, thing for a bass to eat. And we look at that and you think, God, the simplicity of that almost makes it where it shouldn't be effective. But in reality, it is one of the most effective shapes, and still one of the most effective shapes in bass fishing. And as you guys can see, one of my favorite colors, again, straight black. Straight black is so effective. I cannot express to you how many bass I've caught on a straight black trick worm. You know, even going back to last year, a buddy of mine, Aaron's from Aaron Outdoors, if you guys have ever watched his channel, won the first ever kayak adventure series on the Flint River, fishing for shoal bass using a Texas rigged black trick worm. So from, you know, levels of competition, whether it be kayak or the highest levels of competition that you think about, down to your weekend warrior just going out and want to catch bass, the black trick worm still works. But like I said, I'm Texas rigging this thing. I'm going with a 1/4 ounce or less, normally like 1/4, 3/16, maybe even like, you know, an 1/8 ounce bullet weight, just free on the line. We're not pegging that weight down, and then a 3 to 4/0 offset worm hook. That's simple rig. Just like I said, keep it simple, stupid rig, dragging that thing around, hopping it off the bottom. You can go back and watch. I actually just did a video about fishing big worms for bass. And in that video, I talk about how I actually like to fish the worm, the actual retrieve for the worm. I'll make sure again to link that down in the pinned comment so you guys can check it out. But just, you know, varying the retrieve, but just keeping it simple with just that unpegged Texas rig, 3/16, 1/4 ounce, maybe even dropping it down to an 1/8 if we're fishing shallow water. 3 to 4/0 offset worm hook, and just a straight black trick worm is one of the most, if not the most effective bait on this list. I think literally it'd probably go Wacky Rig, this, and then number 5 of the most effective, the ones that are going to get the most bites. It's just going to help you as an angler to have confidence. And I think sometimes, and this really is where this list will come into play, is that not only can you get big bites on all of these baits, but you can get a lot of bites as well. And I think when we get into summertime bass fishing and it gets really, really tough outside, just getting a bite, getting a fish into the bank, getting your hands on a fish, whether it's 12 inches or 12 pounds. I mean, 12 pounder would be really freaking cool. But like, it doesn't matter if it's 12 inches or 12 pounds, just putting your hand on that fish, being able to like touch that fish gives you so much more confidence to go into the rest of your day and to fish with confidence. And I think fishing with confidence oftentimes is the key to catching more fish. And I often tell people, you know, I love to go up north during the spring because it's just an area of the country that you're going to get a ton of bites. And getting bites doesn't only help you to be a more effective fisherman, but it helps you to really dial in just the mechanics of fishing. And so, you know, whether it be the Wacky Rig stick bait, whether it be the trick worm, or even the walking bait and a couple other baits that we're going to talk about today, all of these baits are going to help you to just get bites while also being able to get those really big bites. Like I said with the trick worm, my buddy Aaron, I myself caught some giant fish fishing that term as well. I think the biggest fish that I caught on literally 1/4 ounce Texas rig black trick worm, I caught a 21.5 inch shoal bass on that bait. And then I caught another almost 20 inch, it was a 19 3/4, almost hit 20 on a bone walking bait. And so again, these are just baits that I have a ton of confidence in to take everywhere, that not only just get bites, but also can get big bites. But number 3, is that number 3? 1, 2, 3. Yes, number 3 is going to be just a straight black trick worm. All right, number 4 is going to be a bait that I think a lot of people overlook, and I think is one of the most underrated baits that has come out in the past few years, and that is the mini bladed jig. So there's a bunch of different companies making these smaller bladed jigs, but just as this like that downsize bladed jig. You know, you've got your standard big bladed jigs, not meaning the blade is big, because there actually is one of those as well, but just your standard bladed jig. You know, some of it's that 1/2 to 3/8 ounce. It's that full size. It's going to have that 3 to 4/0 hook in it, that bigger head, that bigger blade, just everything about that being bigger. And a lot of the times with that bait, you're going to have specialized equipment to throw it on, just to throw it effectively and to be able to hook those fish really, really well. But this little dude is really, really something. This is I forgot what the name. I know it's just a Z-Man. It's a Z-Man chatterbait. I think it's called the mini chatterbait or something like that. But this thing is a 1/4 ounce. Just little bitty head, got the little bitty blade, the little bitty dainty skirt on the back, and this thing is so effective because you get that bladed jig sound, that bladed jig profile, that bladed jig just effectiveness that we all love, and it's something that literally on the deck of my boat right now, I've got 7 rods rigged up to go take out kayak fishing with me, and one of those rods has a bladed jig on it because it doesn't matter summer, winter, fall, spring, hot weather, cool weather, warm water, cold water, the bladed jig just gets bit. And especially if you're fishing on the bank and you're fishing ponds that have a little bit of grass in them, or lakes that have grass in them, or even rivers that have grass in them, you know, this is one of the most effective baits to be able to fish around and through that grass to a certain extent and be able to get really, really big bites. But then again, we're downsizing a little bit. Just like with our walking bait, just like with a lot of these presentations, we're going lighter weights, lighter sizes, and this one is no different. Like I said, little 1/4 ounce head. It's got that little 2/0 hook in there while still being a good stout hook, little bitty dainty skirt. And then I'm going to pair this up with something small, you know, something like just a normal size soft jerk bait, something like a, you know, just the 4 to 5 inch size jerk bait, maybe even smaller bait, like the 2 to 3. I've got a bait back here, actually by Berkeley. We'll grab it really, really quick so that you guys can see it, give you an example. And we are back. Sorry about that little intermission on the video there. Not for you guys. We use a little movie magic and edit that in. But this is the flat nose minnow. So this is actually a drop shot bait. Very effective drop shot bait is that. This is one of those baits that like absolutely blew up a couple years ago because they were smashing giant smallmouth on it. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, well, I mean, that'll smash giant smallmouth. That'll be great on, you know, a little drop shot and stuff like that. But my first thought was run this thing up on the back of that little bladed jig. It's a little 4-inch size, but what's really cool about this bait, and again, it's kind of playing into what we're talking about here, is it's just overall way smaller. It's way thinner in the body. It's way thinner in the overall profile, and I think sometimes that gets bit over anything, especially when you're dealing with lakes like mine, that during this time of year, you have all of these, what we call glass minnows show up. Essentially, they're just really, really small shad, and it's actually a species of shad, and we call them glass minnows because you actually see through their body almost. But the bass will absolutely hammer those things, and it's really hard to find baits that do a good job of representing that size profile, and I think this little bitty chatterbait does just that. I mean, as you guys can see, just very small, very compact, very efficient, just one of the best baits that you can throw this time of year. And again, downsizing, showing those fish just a little something different, a smaller profile. Maybe when you're dealing with people who are, have already fished through that area and fished it really effectively, coming through with that little bitty, micro size chatterbait, that smaller size chatterbait can get bit, and then pairing it with that little bitty trailer, again, a little flat nose minnow, a little 4-inch guy there, just tiny little soft jerkbait style bait, can absolutely get hammered. All right, now on to number 5. Number 5 is probably one of the most effective baits. It's funny, I'm going to say this about a lot of these baits because they truly are, and I think that's what makes this list unique, is that I'm giving you 5 of the most fish catching baits of all time, and in reality, with just a few adjustments, maybe take out the topwater walking bait and replace it with something else. This is a list of baits that you can take into the whole entire year and go bass fishing, but it's really effective during the summer and really effective during any pressured time of the year. Late summer, late winter, pressured areas of the water, this is where this list really shines. But again, one of the most effective baits of all time, a bait that has literally caught millions upon millions, if not billions of fish up to that point, and that is the old deadly Nedley. Absolutely love throwing a Ned Rig. It is one of the best baits of all time. Again, it's a bait that I have caught fish from this big all the way up to, I think the biggest fish I've ever caught on a Ned Rig was right north of like 7.5 pounds. It was a giant largemouth during the winter. I caught it on just the tiniest little Ned Rig. I actually caught it on this little dude right here. It's a 2.5-inch size bait. This is the Berkeley Little Trooper, and again in straight black. I don't play around with a ton of colors. There's actually 2 colors that I use primarily in the winter. I'll break out, they've got one that's called copper orange. It's just a green pumpkin with a bunch of orange in it, because a lot of my lakes, orange is very, very effective. And then any other time of the year, I'm going to fish that straight black. This is one of the most effective tools for me, especially for current fishing. When I'm fishing for smallmouth, whether I'm wading creeks or floating rivers in my kayak, a straight black Ned Rig has caught giants for me. And my buddy, Mr. Josh Sharp, Mr. Bassenberg, you guys have probably seen him over on Alex Red Fishing, actually just won a tournament not too long ago throwing a straight black worm on his Ned Rig. But as you guys can see here, little itty bitty crawl profile. Now you can either go with like the worm profile, it's your standard like TRD style worm that you guys have seen, or you can go with like a little crawl profile like this. I love the little crawl profile, and I found for me this is the most effective bait on a Ned Rig. Other people have found just a straight no nothing bait, something that doesn't have claws, no appendages or anything like that, to be really, really effective. But just for me and how many fish I've caught on it, and really my confidence in Maxent. I mean, as you guys can see, Maxent flat nose minnow, Maxent, crawl, Maxent on my general. I think that especially with smallmouth and especially with pressured fish, that scent technology can help you to get a couple more bites. And this little bitty tiny profile is the same. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with the walking bait as well. When we're talking about like a little compact crawl like this, it's very small, it's very vulnerable, it's very easy for that fish to eat. Even if it stands up in that defensive position, that fish really isn't going to be intimidated by that small profile. It's just going to suck that thing up and it's going to eat it, because I think a lot of the times bass just look at crawdads kind of like spicy popcorn. They just literally swim around, and when they see a crawdad, they take full advantage of the fact that it's a crawdad. They swim down there and they eat it, because they don't move very fast. they're not the smartest thing. They're not really trying to get away from them very easily, and I think a bass can just take full advantage of that. And so when it sees a little piece of spicy popcorn like this, it's going to hammer. And then one tip I can give you as a bank angler especially, but for really any angler, and really to fish this bait effectively, is to go with an EWG style Ned head. Now I actually make these myself. It's made out of a Do It molds. This is a little 1/0 size hook. It ends up fitting in this little bitty bait perfectly, but there's different companies that can make them. I don't make them and sell them, I just make them for myself. But there's options for that EWG style head, and obviously that EWG style head is going to be way more weedless. It's going to come through cover a lot better. It's going to come through rock a lot better. So as a bank angler, it's going to help you guys to avoid breaking off as much. And that, you know, the same goes for your Texas rig worm as well. So the reason I like to Texas rig that thing is because it's going to help you to get through that cover and just to fish it more effectively. And with the Wacky Rig, and the Wacky Rig obviously isn't as weedless, but it's going to be more of a bait that you fish a little bit shallower, and so you're going to be more kind of, you know, target casting with that one. But I think when we're talking about that Ned Rig, something we're going to drag on the bottom, something we're going to fish really slow with, and it's going to have a chance to get marred up in all kinds of stuff, that little EWG style head can help you to be a lot more efficient and a lot more effective out on the water. But that is bait number 5. Again, a list of some of the most effective baits, not only for summertime bass fishing, but of all time. Now I said, one rod, one reel to fish them all. And I really, truly believe if you've got this one rod, this one reel, that you're gonna be able to effectively go out and catch bass, and that is just a standard spinning setup. Now the spinning setup that I'm using is a 7-foot medium fast action. This is the Abu Garcia Vertias rod, and then I've got that paired up with a 300 size spinning reel, 10-pound braid to a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. That setup can effectively fish every bait that we've talked about today. And so if you were to go out as a new angler or as a bank angler looking to get a new combo, and you want something that you say to yourself, Alex, I need one rod, one reel, it's what I can afford at the moment, or it's what I can fit in my apartment, or I can fit in my car, or fit, you know, in my truck so I can go fishing before or after work, you get yourself a 7-foot medium fast action spinning rod, a 300 size spinning reel of any kind. This is a Revo Rocket. It's a specialized spinning reel. It's actually a 7 gear ratio spinning reel. It's one of my favorite, but you don't have to have this one. There's other ones out there, just that 300 size. You get some 10-pound mainline braid, which is really good because you can fill this reel up and then tie on those 10-pound fluorocarbon leaders, and it's going to make this line last forever, as well as make your leader material last forever, because you can tie on, you know, a leader that's as long as the rod. I normally go 7 to 14-foot leader, and the way we get a 14-foot leader, literally hold, you know, reel up the line until it gets here, and then pull off enough line that you can hold it at the base, clip it. That's about a 14-foot leader. You can retie really, really effectively with all of these baits. You can go from your Wacky to your Texas to your Ned to your Walking to your chatterbait. You can fish those all effectively and probably never even fish through the length of your leader. So it helps you to not only save money on the baits, save money on the rod and the reel, but then save money on the line as well, because fluorocarbon can get really, really expensive. As you guys see here, we got the little Wacky Rig on there, and that's what we're fishing with. But just a 7-foot spinning rod, braid to a mainline leader, 300 size reel, you can effectively fish every bait that I've talked about today, and really effectively fish damn near everything that you would need to fish for bass fishing and have fun and to go out and to catch fish. But that's my top 5 baits for summer bass fishing, for bank anglers, or for really any angler dealing with pressured fish, as well as the one rod, one reel combo that I would buy. And if you guys enjoyed this video, click this video, it's popping up right here.